Hey everyone! The actions, opinions, and viewpoints expressed in this episode are solely those of the participants. They do not necessarily reflect my opinions, beliefs, and viewpoints as a labor and delivery nurse. Hello, Incredible Moms. This is Crystal Evaristo with the Incredible Moms podcast, where we discuss getting pregnant, being pregnant, having babies, being a mom, and so much more. We hope you enjoy the show. Today we have Kassie here. Kassie had an incredible, crazy, wild pregnancy, which is basically no prenatal care, and a free birth, which is an unassisted home birth without any medical professionals. Thanks for joining us, Kassie.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Kasaundra, but I go by Kassie, and I'm 33 years old, and I have now 5 kids. I just gave birth to twins, August 24th and August 25th. They were born on different days, actually. I had the twins at home, and it was a free birth, and it was unassisted. So that means that I did not have anybody at home with me, except I did have a doula, but she is not a medical professional. She is just like a support person. And I just basically did it at home by myself. I also had a wild pregnancy for this. So what that means is that I did not have any prenatal care by a OBGYN or a midwife. I took care of myself. I monitored myself every once in a while by doing things like taking my blood pressure. I checked my urine. I tried to do that every single week like an OBGYN would, but I did go multiple weeks where I felt that I didn't need to, and I just didn't do it.
So you were checking it for protein?
Yes.
Okay. And glucose or?
Yes, okay. Exactly. Yeah, there's like 7, I'm not even sure, like 7 or 8 different things that it checks for to see how like hydrated you are, if you have like any infections. You can usually, I guess, it can tell it if you have UTI or something like that, or just an infection like a kidney infection. Mm-hmm. But everything went pretty good, smooth for me for the most part. So I didn't feel the need to continuously check it. Like I said, I was pretty sporadic with it, except for the urine testing that I did pretty much on the regular. The blood glucose I also checked, and my weight I checked.
Okay, so just like a finger stick glucose?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Do you have any kind of like medical background, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so with my previous pregnancies, well, I'll start with my first one, I guess. I would probably consider myself having gestational diabetes or something to that effect. Like I guess I had an issue in that area, but I wouldn't say that my baby was bigger because of it or anything like that. But I gained like 75 pounds, and I was eating terrible. It was just like a horrible experience my whole pregnancy. I kind of stopped going to the doctor at some point because I just didn't agree with the things that they were telling me. They were telling me I needed to take all these tests, and I don't know, I wasn't comfortable with it. So I did stop seeking care, and then I did resume care to be able to give birth. And that's when they told me that I needed a C-section because they said that he was too big. And they gave me an ultrasound the day that he was delivered, and they told me he was over 10 pounds. And in reality, he was only 8 pounds, 8 ounces. Wow. So, yeah.
And they only did it because he was too big.
Well, they basically told me, you're too big. I'm a heavier girl. So they told me you're fat, basically.
Oh, jeez.
And they said that my pelvis was too narrow, that I would never be able to push him out, that if he got stuck in the birthing canal, that they would have to break his shoulder, and that he could have suffer consequences later on in life because he got stuck and they needed to break his shoulder. So they basically just gave me all the negatives of delivering natural and pushed me towards a C-section.
Wow.
And when I had my C-section, I ended up getting like really sick because of it.
So I can see like how this kind of thing would lead you to not really have much faith in like the medical profession and further
Yeah.
on.
Well, with my second, it was even worse because they told me at 35 weeks that she needed to be taken out. And they told me that I had preeclampsia, which I didn't agree with them. I didn't have any protein in my urine that they told me of. My vision wasn't going. My blood pressure was a little high, but I was drinking coffee. I feel like that had something to do with it. I was stressed out. Um, I I don't like the doctor as it is. I feel like all of that led to higher blood pressure and again don't because I didn't agree with a lot of the things that they were asking me to do, like the 3-hour tests and there was just like other um they wanted me to like pee in a bag or this thing. I'm
Like
not
a
even
basin.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then leave it in the refrigerator. And I said there needs to be another way. Like I cannot do that. That is too much for me. I'm
At
I
home they
can't.
wanted you to do this?
Yeah,
Oh.
they wanted to check I guess my sugars or something. I'm not really sure, but from my first birth, actually, I ended up having high insulin levels. I found out after I had my first son, and that led me to like gain and well, actually, I had already gained the 75 pounds. It led me to keep that weight on, and I was unable to get rid of it. And then I went to see another doctor, and they told me that my insulin levels were too high. And this is all of because of, I guess, how I was eating in my first pregnancy. That I this ended up happening to me. So I ended up changing my diet. I lost all this weight. I ended up getting down to 200 pounds, and then I got pregnant again with my second daughter, and that's when I was again in between care. Like I would go to a doctor and then I would fire them, and then I would go to another doctor and I would fire them because, well, for one, I moved from Pennsylvania to Florida and I needed to seek a new provider down in Florida. And then I ended up going to like a clinic and it was just not very good at all. It's just one of their, typical by the book type of places.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up not seeing a doctor for a while with that pregnancy. And then I actually, at 35 weeks, I had my second appointment with the doctor that ended up delivering her. I was only there for the second time. The first time was like, you see the nurse practitioner, and then the second time you see the doctor. So the second time that I went, I saw the doctor for the first time and I had told him that I had a headache for one day, one full day, and I had not taken any Tylenol or tried to do anything really to get rid of it. I just tried to sleep, and going to sleep didn't resolve the headache. But when I went to the doctor, I told the doctor that I had this headache, and he told me right then and there, all right, well, we're going to take the baby out. We need to take her out today. So I don't know. I didn't agree. I just saw that there could be another way, and I didn't see why I couldn't get I didn't have any other choice. Like, I didn't understand why she couldn't wait 2 more weeks to be, at least 37 weeks.
Right.
And they told me, oh, well, because we're taking her out today, it's only 35 weeks. She's going to go straight to the NICU. So she went straight to the NICU. I didn't get to see her, like, at all. And then they put me on a magnesium drip, which I did not know that they were going to put me on. They did not, tell me or inform me of
Yeah.
anything. And then because I was on that, they had me on bed rest for a full 24 hours. So I couldn't even go see her for a full 24 hours. And then once I was
Jeez.
finally able to see her, then, I'm wondering why the heck she's there. She looks fine to me. She has a cut on her head, like they hurt her. But I mean, other than that, Like she seemed to be breathing and eating fine. Like I didn't see any issues. And I felt like I had to fight for her to, get out of there. And I feel like the only reason they ended up letting her out when they did after 10 days was because a hurricane was actually coming and we're going to be evacuating.
Wow.
So,
Was it like a rural, like kind of country hospital, or like out like
I,
in a city, or?
they say it's a regional hospital. So
Wow.
I don't think so.
I mean, because I
It's
know
pretty
sometimes these
big.
small hospitals do things a bit differently, but like that's
Yeah.
incredible.
So my third pregnancy, I actually went to the same hospital. My experience was completely different, but I had prenatal care the entire pregnancy, and my pregnancy went spectacular. Like I had no issues whatsoever. Out of all the 3 C-sections that I had, I'd say that was like the best experience, other than the fact that the doctor never put the paperwork in so that I could get my tubes tied.
Oh,
And I found out the day that I was going in for the C-section that I was not getting my tubes tied that day. And that is how I ended up pregnant with my twins.
oh no. But you didn't. So did you think your tubes were tied, or you just?
No, they told me before I was
Oh,
going in, so at least I knew. But I mean, I thought for months that I was going to get my tubes tied that day. And I walked in there at 6 o'clock in the morning to be told that I was not going to have them tied that day.
oh no.
So plans changed,
Kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess, maybe.
right? Yeah, so I don't know why, but when I got pregnant with the twins, I just knew that I was not going to a doctor. Like it was such a strong feeling, and I had no insurance, so that kind of like sealed the deal for me.
Did you know you
But
were having twins?
so I found out like right in between Christmas and New Year's, and then I had a moment like about 2 weeks, around 8 weeks pregnant, I guess, that I got extremely sick. Like, I thought that I didn't think it had anything to do with the pregnancy. I thought there was something wrong with me because I couldn't hold anything down, and I was drinking water and I'm throwing that up, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, I do not understand. And somebody mentioned, like one of my friends that knew that I was pregnant mentioned the idea of twins. And I said, no way. Like, no. Don't jinx me, please. But because I had no prenatal care, I didn't know. I didn't think anything else of it. Like she said twins, I said no, and that was that.
Right. Oh my God.
So I around 20 weeks, I I felt so amazing. Like I'm like not throwing up. I don't feel nauseated. Like my breasts don't hurt. Like I have no symptoms. I'm not even feeling movements. So now I'm like, oh man, like maybe there's something wrong because in all my other pregnancies, I felt movement way before 20 weeks. Like, I'm pretty sure with my second, I felt movement around 8 weeks. It was very crazy.
Yeah, like fluttering or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was just like very odd that I didn't feel anything. So I did decide that maybe I should be seen. So I got insurance and I started calling around to try to find something. And this is right when COVID started happening. So I found somebody that would take me in, and I started setting up my everything with the lady that I was talking to, like the appointments. And then I would also, because of how far along I was, I would need like an ultrasound right away. So I was trying to set all this up, and I told her, well, I can only go on a Monday because that's when my husband's home. I have nobody else down here. And she said, well, the only Monday I have available is not for another 4 weeks. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I'll take it. And she's like, well, we can't accept you then. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she said that because of how far along I was, that I would be, that they didn't see it as a good fit, that they didn't think that they would be able to help me.
Or like a liability.
I guess, yeah. So that didn't end up working out. So then I found a midwife who was going to do my prenatal care, but then because of the state I'm in, she could not come to my house to do a home birth. It's illegal.
Right.
So she could only do the prenatal care, and then I would have to go to the hospital, and I guess she wouldn't even go, basically. She would just try to advocate for me, I guess, from all of the appointments she would be referring me to. So I would have to pay out of pocket for that, and that would have been over $2,000. And I was willing to do it, but I had my initial exam with her. I had my initial, like, to see if she would take on my case, and then they went to go send me for the anatomy scan for the 20-week, and the place that they wanted me to go to was requiring masks. Well, I, being 20 weeks pregnant unknowingly with twins, I couldn't breathe as it is. So I said, like, I know a place that I can go to that's not requiring masks. Would you be able to transfer me there? And they said, sure, no problem. But only thing is, we're requiring masks. And I said, I'm pregnant. Like, would you be able to just let me not wear a mask? I'm having trouble breathing. Like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, wear a mask. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me. So I said, I cried so hard that day. I cried so hard because I wanted to make sure that everything was okay with my baby. And it just seemed like a roadblock. So I said, you know what? This has got to be God's way of, like, telling me that my dream is achievable and to keep going for what I want. So I took that as a sign. So I ended up paying for an ultrasound. When I went to the ultrasound, I laid down, and within the first, like, 3 minutes, she says, you're having twins, right?
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, I'm what? She says, yeah, you're having twins. And I said, no, I didn't know that. You just told me. Like, I had no idea. And she said, you didn't know? And I'm like, no, I had no idea. You just told me. So it was like a crazy moment. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know how to feel. I just, like, oh my gosh, I'm going from 3 to 5. What?
When you wanted a tubal?
So I got into the car and I called my husband. And when I told him, he said he already knew. Like, he said he had a feeling that I was going to tell him that.
Oh,
And I'm like, are you kidding me?
wow.
Then I told my best friend the same, like, I got off the phone with him, called her, and she said the same exact thing. And I was like, this is so ridiculous right now. Like, everybody had a feeling except for me. Like, I'm okay.
You're just trying to make it through the pregnancy.
Yes. I was already so big at this point. I had already gained like 35 pounds. So definitely knew something was up, but I didn't know exactly what was up. And then I found out.
Wow. Did they say, like, did you find out the genders and all that?
Yes, they told me right then. But the thing is, I actually did the sneak peek right around, I think, 9 weeks, like right when they say that you can send away for it and they can tell you. I think
Oh,
it's 9 weeks. I sent away, and it told me that I was having a girl,
huh.
but it didn't. I don't think that test can pick up that it's more than one girl. So, but if I was having a boy, maybe it would have been like, I wonder how that would have turned out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I ended up having twin girls, so it was accurate.
Wow.
But then she told me that they were both girls. And then the first ultrasound that I had, it literally lasted 5 minutes. She told me I was having twins. She told me that they were girls, but she didn't know for a fact. So she said that she wanted me to come back. So I made another appointment with her, and I went back, and everything seemed good. Like, I didn't feel that there was like a reason to worry. I started researching like literally everything about twins at that point, and I started to get nervous. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
read about all kinds of things that happen with twins, and I was really freaked out. I mean, I kept pushing through and like knowing like that I'm taken care of, like as far as like in my spirituality, like God is there with me. And I really relied on that, to be honest, because I just knew that I had to like experience this. Like in my past births, I never got to experience my water breaking or the mucus plug coming out or even having a contraction, really.
Mhm.
So it was something that I knew I needed to experience, and I'm really not sure like where I'm headed. Like I feel like I'm still on this journey, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure where I'm going. But I ended up getting really bad preeclampsia at the end of my pregnancy. And I can say that because I really had all the symptoms and I really was doing everything that I could in my power to not have it. I mean, I followed the brewer's diet. The brewer's diet, yeah. I When I saw that at around 35 weeks that I started to get protein in my urine, actually it was 36 weeks. I started to up my protein and I was checking my blood pressure on the regular, and I was eating like 200 to 300 grams of protein every single day. Like I was putting protein in shakes and putting protein powder in protein shakes. Like I was doing everything I could, taking cayenne tincture, um, brewers, burdock root tea. Um, I was taking Epsom salt baths and taking magnesium like in the thousands of milligrams, like high doses of magnesium to try and bring down my blood pressure and make sure that I nothing happened because it was getting pretty high, and I had a limit, I had a number set in my head that if it gets to this then I'm going to the emergency room. And like thank God it never reached that level and I never had to go to the emergency room. But I knew that if I didn't get the twins out like soon, that I was going to end up in C-section. So I decided that I was going to start asking people about primrose, evening primrose. I think that's what it is.
Mhm.
And I wrote on Facebook in a group, has anybody been successful using this? And that night I went to sleep and I had a dream that my guides came to me and said to me, "Do not use this." And the message was so strong. It repeated itself 3 times. I dreamt that same dream 3 times that night because they wanted to make sure, I don't know why, but they wanted to make sure that I was not going to use that. And then they said to me that I could use castor oil. That was like, it was like a small voice in my dream that told me that at the end of my dream. They said if I wanted to try it, that I could. So I tried castor oil. I took 2 tablespoons at 37 and like 3 or 4 days, and nothing happened to me. I didn't have a crazy upset stomach like a lot of people say that they do. I didn't. I did end up having extremely strong contractions that ended up dying out. They lasted like 5 hours and then it died out. Um, and then that was that. Like nothing.
No, that's so funny because just literally the other day, I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and someone at work had said, because I had used that with my last pregnancy, and my midwife told me that it was okay. But someone had said, "Oh my God, I heard that that can actually cause an abruption. Like a lot of women, studies have shown that it can cause an abruption, which in your case, being you already had what, 3 C-sections at that point,
Yep.
would be like catastrophic for you probably. So that's so weird."
Yeah. I know. I did read all kinds of crazy things because I do research on everything. I was looking into everything, but I was also doing all the natural ways to try to induce myself because I already knew what I was going to end up like. It was either try to induce myself or go to the hospital, tell them I've had no prenatal care, that I've been doing it myself, even though they know that I have a history of like all these like headaches and whatever they wrote in their freaking files that they have. um, you know, and I just knew that like I just needed to keep pressing forward. Like I actually had a virtual doula, and honestly, she was really my strength, because every time that I had an issue, I would talk it out with her. And she actually, when I first met her, and I need to say this because I think like this whole journey, it was like little things like this that showed me that it was meant for me to do. I put on Facebook again in one of the groups that I'm in. I was looking for a doula, and all these people messaged me. And I found this one doula that she seemed like really cool. She was into the free birth thing. Would take on twins, like, and support me in the free birth of my twins. But then I saw this one lady and I started talking to her, and she was from my hometown, and something just told me to go for her. And I'd already like committed to the other lady, and I had to reach out to her and explain to her that I'm sorry that, I couldn't go with her. I was going to go in a different direction, but something screamed at me that I needed to choose this girl, because she's literally knows the same exact town that I'm from, and knows that whole entire area. And it was just so weird that, I just felt like such a connection with her. Like we agreed on everything. And within that first 2-hour consultation that we had, she said to me, wouldn't you like to have somebody in person, instead of like a virtual doula? And I was like, I mean, I don't know, really. Like, I don't know. Am I going to want somebody to see me naked? Like, and am I going to want to like have somebody else? Cause I can get pretty, excuse my language, but bitchy. So I didn't know like how I would be reacting. I hear all these stories about women like cursing their husbands out, and like, I don't know, just screaming and yelling. And I didn't know how it was going to be, pooping, like all of that. So I said, I don't know, maybe, but I really, like you. So I don't know. And she said, you know what? I'm going to reach out to somebody, and I'm going to see what, like, I'll get back to you on this. So she ended up getting the head of the organization that she's with. That lady, she lives in Tampa and I'm in Palm Bay. So it's like an hour and 15-minute drive. She ended up getting her I'm sorry, 2 hours and 15-minute drive, getting her to agree to come to my birth for free.
Wow.
So when she told me this, I thought, wow, same thing. Like, that sounds awesome. But I've had so many people let me down in my past. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around that. So I just kept saying like, yeah, like, okay. And then I had a conversation with her like right before my birth, and she said, no, Kassie, she's coming. Like, if she said that she's coming, trust me. And I was just like, still like, yeah. But when she said that, I had a little bit more hope, but it wasn't until the day before my water ended up breaking. So I ended up, when I took the castor oil at 37 in like 3 or 4 days, whatever it was, and it didn't work, I told myself that I was going to do it again. And I waited a full week. My husband wanted to wait out the end of the month because he's a car salesman, and he wanted to reach a goal of his to end up making his commission a certain amount and make it less, because he was going to take the time off of work. And I said, no, you have until the 23rd. So that night, the day before, actually, the doula Taylor, she ended up messaging me and saying, I have a feeling you're going to be calling me very soon to tell me that your water broke. And that really then solidified the fact that she was coming to actually be at my birth. So then I was like really comforted and I knew, but I wasn't confident on the fact that I could give birth. I was like very nervous because I had been told so many times that I couldn't do it, that my body wasn't going to be able to do it. And I've been told so many times that my uterus is going to rupture because I've had three C-sections in the past, but something like deep down just, I don't know, it just kept me calm. Like I wasn't freaking out. I just knew that everything was going to be okay. And I just like I was like on a ride almost. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um,
That's terrifying to me. When you told me 3 C-sections and then a home birth with no medical professional, I'm like, oh my Lord, it's like giving me anxiety. I know it turned out great, but my God.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie, I really was getting sick there. I gained so much weight. I ended up gaining like pounds by the day. I was swelling, my stomach was swollen, my feet were swollen, my ankles were swollen. The swelling would go away in my feet and my ankles if I put them up, but they were still swollen. My whole body was swollen. I ended up going back up to like 250 something pounds. I ended up not even paying attention to my weight anymore because I was literally crying as I knew I have preeclampsia. Like I 1000%, like something's going on with me. And it didn't matter how much, protein I ate because I was still testing for the protein and it was still coming up. I increased my protein by, I went from like 150 to like I was eating between 200 and 300 and it didn't make a difference.
So did you read somewhere that was good to do when you were
Yes.
spilling out protein into your urine?
Yeah, because the brewer's diet, they say that if you have protein in your urine, that's a lack of protein. But the thing is too is that your body could be not digesting the protein properly. So, I don't know. It didn't work for me, but I was able to, like, I didn't have any vision issues. I wasn't getting headaches. My blood pressure was high, but it wasn't extremely high. It was like 153 over 90. So yeah, it was like pretty high, but my limit was like 160 or 165. Then I would have gone to the hospital. But I felt fine. Like I was still active. I have 3 young kids. My oldest is only 5. My youngest is a year and a half. So I was very active my entire pregnancy, even though I was gaining all this weight. And I took like 1 nap a day, if that. Some days I didn't take any naps. I was eating extremely healthy. I cut coffee out completely so that I could make sure that that was not a reason my blood pressure was high. I don't know. I felt fine. So I didn't see an issue. I don't know. I guess you can say it was intuition.
Yeah.
But then I ended up trying castor oil again at 38 weeks. And I think it was like 38 in one day. Because it was August 23rd and I took the 2 tablespoons like I had done the previous time. And then I ended up laying down with my son to go to sleep. And I I think before I laid down with him, I might have eaten some food or something like that. And then I laid down. But I was thinking like, man, nothing's happening again. Like my stomach's not upset like they say, there's nothing going on. And I should mention that I had been seeing the chiropractor the entire time that I was pregnant. I had never seen a chiropractor before, but I decided to go and that helped me a lot. But one of the things that I was going for was because my hips kept popping in and out of place while I was pregnant. So I would hear a large pop when, it would happen. And it would happen usually when I was laying down. So I'm saying all this because when I was laying down with my son, I heard like a pop. So something told me internally that that was my water breaking, but I still like had that thought that was like, no, no, that wasn't my water breaking. Like, I think that was just my hips popping like I've no seen, I felt all these other times before. So when I stood up after he fell asleep, I was definitely convinced it wasn't my water because nothing came out, like nothing was happening. So I ended up going to the bathroom. And then when I went to the bathroom, that's when I started, I started leaking. And I was pretty convinced at first that it was just pee. Like I was peeing myself and then it just kept happening. And then at some point I'm like, okay, I definitely think my water broke now. So I started texting my doula and then I texted the other doula. And then the other doula, it was kind of crazy because she had literally just got off the plane from coming back into town. And she was like, all right, I'm coming. So I did start experiencing contractions right away after that. And I wouldn't say they were too strong, but they were strong enough that I was like not really comfortable sleeping. And I couldn't really get comfortable in any position, honestly. But I did end up going back to sleep finally, probably like around 4 a.m. or something. And then I ended up laying in bed and being on and off sleep until the doula Taylor called me, or rather started texting me saying that she was in town and coming over to my house shortly. She ended up getting there like around noon. And at that point, like I said, I'd just been in bed basically and sleeping on and off. And then when she got there, that like gave me that burst of energy to like get up. And I got on my ball that I had, and that was pretty comfortable. I stayed on that for a lot. Uh, and she brought like a risobo, I think that's how you say it, which
Rebozo,
was
like a
Rebozo.
sheet
Thank
kind of
you.
thing. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That
Yeah.
was pretty awesome seeing that in person. I've read about it, but having her use it on me, that felt really good. It definitely relieved a lot of the back pressure that I was having.
Yeah. It like
And
turns the
then,
babies. Like it can, well, I don't know about babies, but I know I try to use that to kind of help a baby become face down instead of face up.
well, my babies were definitely face down.
Oh,
So
good.
maybe that might have helped. I don't know. But I tried to get into the bath. I thought that I was going to be like a water person, and I was not at all. I hated it. I have like a big garden tub, and it was my saving grace my entire pregnancy. I was in it constantly. And then as soon as I'm giving birth, like I want nothing to do with the water. It was horrible. So that was definitely like different because I thought for sure that I was going to love it. Um, but I did actually have a dream when I was pregnant that I was going to give birth standing up. Like I saw vividly in my dream that I delivered a baby and that I was waiting for like the placenta to come out, and then I woke up. So I was curious to see how it ended up delivering, but I did end up delivering kind of standing up with the second baby. But so like during labor, I did not use a Doppler or anything. Like I know that was a question that somebody had asked me. I just didn't feel a need. Like I could feel the babies moving and I didn't feel stressed. So I didn't feel that they were stressed at all. I feel like if I was stressed, then that would be an indication to me that maybe they were stressed. But I was so calm. Even my contractions, I feel like they were not that strong. Like the contractions I felt when I had taken the castor oil the first time, those were extremely strong contractions. But for when it was really happening, I didn't feel that they were that horrible. I was able to talk through most of them, and I did ask, I did question myself a lot. So I'm really glad the doula was there because she was able to like talk me through some of my concerns. Like I was concerned about my pelvic floor being too weak to push out the baby. And she was just like, no, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry. And then I was worried that I wouldn't know like when to push. And then I remember reading that a lot of women said that when they felt the urge to go poop, or that they felt like they needed to poop, that was like the feeling to push. So for the brief moment that I was in the bathtub, I did get that feeling, and then I started pushing, and then I started to get worried because she was like I could feel her coming down and then going back up, and then coming down and going back up. So I thought that maybe that wasn't normal, but my doula again talked me through it and said, that was very normal. And I just kept pushing. And then before I knew what was happening, it was happening, and she was crowning. And my husband was actually not even there at that moment because he went and dropped off the babysitter. And he ended up coming home as she was crowning.
Oh, wow.
And ended up missing her birth by like literally 30 seconds.
Oh,
Like he was at the door knocking on the door to get it unlocked as she fell onto the bed.
jeez.
That was unfortunate for him, but luckily there was twins, so
You still had one more to go.
yep. So Alyssa came first, and she ended up being 6 pounds, 2 ounces. And so she's actually second smallest baby that I've had. Isabel, my second baby, ended up being 6 pounds, and they actually share a birthday, August 24th.
Oh, wow.
So yes, Isabel turned 3 on the day Alyssa was born, and then she was born at around. I'm sorry, I'm bad at my time, so I think it was like 8:26 when she was born, but it could be 8:34. I think it was 8:34.
One of the twins?
That's bad, right?
Was this one of the twins or your 3-year-old?
Yeah, no, that's the twin. She was born Alyssa was born at around 8:30 at night. So then I had to wait for Alana to be born, and that was a really crazy experience because now I have a baby already born. And we ended up having Will. He cut the cord, and then the cord was just like hanging from me. So that was like that was such a weird feeling. Oh my gosh. To have this like cold, wet cord just there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We were joking around at that point that, what if the next baby comes on the next day? And we were all like, no, that's not going to happen. Well, 8 hours later.
8 hours?
Yeah,
Wow.
8 hours. So I ended up falling asleep. I was like in and out of sleep, and I was literally on my knees on my bed, hugging pillows, like in that position, trying to push. I would like wake up and I would try to push, and then I would go back to sleep. And then I would wake up and I would push and I would go back to sleep. And then at one point, I guess I did freak out because the baby hadn't come yet. And I woke everybody up because it was like probably 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, we have to get this baby out now. Like, I need her out. This is ridiculous. So I went into the bath. I hated it again. And I literally got in, stayed for 5 minutes, and got out. I was like, no, I can't do this. I got like, I was trying on the toilet to open up my pelvis more and get things going. And I don't know, nothing was working. So I ended up laying back down. I told everybody they can go back to sleep, and laid back down and was again sleeping on and off, pushing, sleeping, pushing, sleeping. And then finally around 4 something in the morning, it was like probably like 4:25 or something. I felt different. And at that exact moment, I woke up my husband. I said, go get the doula. And he was like, what's happening? I was like, go get her. And then it went pop, and my water broke, and it went everywhere. It soaked my entire bed. Like it was everywhere. And I was like, I I was not comfortable at that point. So then I had to get up, and I got up, and like a pain shot through my entire body. Like I was standing up and I dropped to my knees and I had to deliver the baby because she was just coming. Like there was no stopping it. I don't even think I did anything. Like she just came. It was
Wow.
just it was the most incredible thing and the most crazy thing that's ever happened because it was completely different than Alyssa's birth, just 8 hours before. Like Alyssa, I pushed and I pushed and she turtled and, then she came. But this, it was like straight out, like she just shot out, like she was not stopping.
She's like, you want me to come?
Yeah. So I was extremely thankful that Alana, she came out. She had no issues. Her breathing was fine right away. She ended up weighing 8 pounds even.
Oh,
So she was
wow.
actually the bigger of the two twins. And she came the next day, August 25th.
Wow.
Yep, 4:34, I think. That's why I think it was 8:34 because it's 4:34 a.m. and 8:26, I think, a.m. p.m. Sorry.
Wow. I know a lot of people who do like free birth, naturopathic and do things a little differently than everyday typical person. I hope that doesn't sound offensive.
No.
Um, do you end up bringing them to a pediatrician eventually, or like, how does that work?
Well, with every other child that I've ever had, I've always brought them to the pediatrician, and these twins I have not. I decided that I find that useless. I can see if they're growing clearly myself. I've monitored them myself. I've monitored their weight, how much they eat. I've checked for hernias and, anything that the doctor would be checking for, I'm checking for. So I actually did bring them to the chiropractor. She blessed us with a home visit right after they were born. And then they've seen her once since then. And, she has checked them out and clears them. So I find that to be enough for now. I
Yeah.
mean, plus, like with everything going on with the COVID, like I don't want to bring my children out or bring them to a doctor's office and try to force them to wear masks. Like,
Yeah. I get that.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe when everything changes or goes back, like who knows how it's going to be in the future. But when they're not requiring them to do that, I mean, my daughter's only 3, and my other son is 1.5, and I just stopped with all of that for now, at least.
Yeah. I checked out your page before we talked. You don't vaccinate at all?
No, I don't. I did vaccinate my first. I, did all the normal things with him. I circumcised him. I vaccinated him. He actually ended up getting 105 fever after a vaccination. We ended up bringing him to the hospital, and they told me it was a virus. And from that point, I said, I know that's from the vaccine. And even though it's just the fever, it got high enough that I was just like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah. So do you you
So,
you homeschool your
yep,
oldest?
yes, I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy the homeschooling because it gives us the freedom to do whatever he wants to learn and at his level. Like right now I have him already in second grade, for certain things, first and second grade. And if he was in regular school, I don't feel like he would get that opportunity to advance his skills at this young of an age. He's only 5.5. So
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting to me. I mean, I'm kind of like your everyday, just, do things the way you're quote unquote supposed to do it, but it's interesting to hear
listen,
about all that.
it's been a journey for me. I smoked cigarettes for 10 years of my life. I was your everyday like party girl. I drank soda, and I mean, I still have my flaws, don't get me wrong, but I drank soda every single day of my life. I smoked cigarettes, and I ate horrible, and I didn't care about myself at all. And it's just been a slow journey over time to pretty much, I guess, take back my power, I guess, because for so long I let the doctors tell me what to think and what to do. And I guess I put my foot down with it this time. Because I did that, I was able to have a beautiful experience. My healing, it was, I took 2 weeks to heal. And, um, I mean, if I had maybe taken some Tylenol or some Advil, maybe I would have healed a little bit faster. But I would say that having the babies vaginally this time around versus C-section, it was actually a worse recovery than a C-section, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're
Which
only
is
used to that, so I
crazy.
mean, I think by the third, you're probably very used to, that kind of
Yeah,
recovery. It's different when
yeah,
it's down there.
yeah. I mean, I was unable to even walk
Yeah.
for the first week. Like, I even getting to the bathroom. Actually, right after the twins were born, I guess I lost a lot of blood and I didn't realize it, or I wouldn't even say maybe I lost a lot of blood, but maybe I was anemic. I was completely unable to get out of bed, and I ended up almost passing out at one point. I It was probably around 11 a.m. after having Alana that next day on the 25th. I went to go, like, I thought, oh, I'm feeling good, let me get up and go wash myself up and just like get up for a minute. And I was able to go pee and then wash myself off for probably 3 or 4 minutes before I started to feel extremely faint. And I was unable to, like, I felt like I was unable to breathe. And I had to call for my husband to sit down. And luckily the doula was still there because I wasn't sure what was going on. I guess, I told her at that point what was going on, and she said that it sounded like my iron was extremely low. And I took some iron supplements that I had had at the house already because I was taking them already. And as soon as I took them, I started to feel better right away. And that was the only time that I needed to take anything. Or um, after that, I did keep track of like my blood pressure briefly to make sure that that was going down because I was having the issues prior.
Right.
And it did take a long time for my swelling to go away. I would say about 2 weeks. Also, I started seeing the weight drop off like almost immediately, and I'm back down fully now to my normal size. So that makes me very happy because I know sometimes it doesn't always come off.
Yeah. Did you end up breastfeeding the twins too?
I did for the first 2 weeks that my husband was off, but after he ended up going to work, it was just too much for me. I was trying to pump and I just ended up supplementing, and now I'm just fully not even breastfeeding at all. Like I tried to latch the girls the other day and Alyssa latched and we breastfed for a little bit, but it's just too much on my plate with
Yeah.
5 kids.
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine. I know that there are women that do that, and shout out to them because I feel like super mom already, and I can't even imagine breastfeeding. So if there's a mom out there that breastfeeds 5, kids and does all that I do, like cleans the house and all that, then she is amazing. Like, shout out to her because I can't.
It's hard enough breastfeeding one. Do you have anything else to add about like your experience? Like any like word of caution to people? Because I know, I mean, and no offense to you whatsoever, I just being a nurse and all that, I do want to say like your your situation was awesome and it sounds everything went really great, but it's not always the case. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very risky thing that
Yep.
you did, but I mean, like you said, everything turned out great and what have you, but I just like to like warn people that that's not the most common outcome of things like, of having a
Well,
baby after, babies after having 3 C-sections. So,
I would say that, um I would say that you need to know yourself, because, like for me, I'm a big signs person. So another sign that I saw was after that ultrasound that told me that I was having twins. I actually saw a double rainbow that day coming home, and I
oh,
actually
wow.
posted about it in the group, one of the groups that I'm in, and was like, I took a picture of the double rainbow, and I took a picture of the sonogram that I got, posted it in one of the groups. And to me, like that was another sign that I was on the right path. And that kind of goes into what I was saying about, knowing yourself, because for me, signs are like really big. So it was like I kept seeing the signs for me. And then it's also like I had this gut feeling like it was different than the other pregnancies. With the other pregnancies, I didn't get that gut feeling to like go free birth. Like I didn't even know what the heck a free birth was with my first pregnancy. I think that I just wanted it so bad. And I did all of my research. So I would definitely say also to make sure you do all of your research, because I knew like everything that could potentially go wrong, and I knew everything that could potentially go right. So I knew both sides of everything. And you know, I felt that that risk was something that I was willing to take myself, because I wanted to experience, a vaginal birth. Like I should have had that right from the start. It was stolen from me by
Yeah,
the doctor that, pushed me into having a C-section by lying to me multiple times.
right.
So if he had never done that, maybe I wouldn't have ever free birthed my twins. Maybe I would have had a vaginal birth with my first and wouldn't have led to this. But now, because of everything, because of all of the all of this, I decided that I would like to become a doula and like help women to make their own decisions, because yes, they gave me a choice in my first pregnancy. They put a spin on it. And then with my second, I didn't get a choice. And if I had a doula, or if I even knew what that was at that point, maybe with my second, it would have turned out different.
Yeah,
So I feel like all of these things have happened to me so that I could maybe possibly, help other women. And I'm still in my studies, so I'm nowhere close to being completed or being where I want to be. So that's why I say I think I'm still on this journey, but it's also set me up for in the future. Now I know that if I am going to have another child, which I don't know, I'm not taking any preventative measures really. I would want to have another home birth. So would I do it the same way? Probably not, because I like, seeing the ultrasounds and getting the anatomy scans. Like I liked checking up on my babies, but I knew that if I went to the doctor in with the twins, I knew that I would get sucked into that world. And I knew that there was not like I would not have enough confidence to get myself out of there.
right.
And it literally felt like I it sounds kind of crazy, right? But it literally felt like I was in two separate worlds. And I felt like if I made that cross into that world, that everything would change and I would not end up having my free birth that I wanted, or like, delivering vaginally, because that's really what I wanted. It didn't have to be a free birth. It didn't have to be an at-home free birth. That just how it ended up happening, because nobody would support me.
Yeah. I
So,
think a lot of people don't keep themselves educated enough to make decisions when they're in the hospital sometimes. That's one thing that I kind of try to encourage when I'm trying to take care of my patients. Like, yeah, we could break your water, but ultimately it's your choice. We don't have to, like
yeah.
kind of like, because they don't really know like the consequence of that. When they break their water, they are on a timer. Like, your water's broken. They're gonna really try to make sure this happens within the next 12 hours or so. And they don't realize that until kind of after the fact. So it's like they have to be well informed.
Yeah. Well, I think the lack of information also like comes from the doctors because usually, I'm not saying all,
Mhm.
there are a lot of great doctors out there, but there are many doctors that push for one thing and don't educate on the other side. They don't educate fully, they only educate like half. And it's usually to what they want you to do.
I I understand that for sure. Well, that was a crazy story. I'm so happy everything turned out good for you. So Modi twins. I know that you said yours are Modi. Can you explain that a little bit too?
Sure. So monodi means that they have one placenta, but they share two amniotic sacs. Di would be like if they had one placenta for each of them, so two placentas and two amniotic sacs. And if it was mono, then it would be one sac and one placenta. So they had I had one placenta, which actually the placenta I didn't even say anything about that. That came out like really easy. I didn't have to do anything. It literally just came out. I at that point had no like I could not be pushing anymore. I had no strength, and it just like came out, and it was gigantic.
Mhm.
Like literally huge. Like I could see why I had high blood pressure and started having issues. It was like gigantic. So
Yeah. Once that placenta comes out, everything usually starts to make a turn for the best, hopefully, after some time.
yeah, it did. Thank God, and no high blood pressure for me anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the placenta, it had two cords attached to it, so that one it went to each of them, and they had their own separate amniotic sac. And Alyssa's ended up popping, which was a trickle, and Alana's ended up bursting. So I got to experience both of those things, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was like literally like a movie, like burst, and like gallon of water goes everywhere.
Wow. And
Yeah,
she was bigger, so that's kind of it's funny. Like she had more
yeah.
fluid because she was bigger, and she was probably taking some of the nutrients from her sister or something. Who knows?
Yeah, and one thing that I learned is you actually have to get like a blood test to determine if they're identical or not, because even though they're mono-di, there is a chance that they could be fraternal or they could be identical. So I have no idea because I didn't have any prenatal care and I never got that test done. So I'm assuming that they probably are fraternal twins because they look nothing alike.
Oh,
The My girl Alyssa, she actually I just weighed them today. She's actually closing the gap on the weight difference. She's a half pound lighter than her sister. But Alana, it looks like thick. Like I don't know how else to describe it. Like she looks like all my other chunky babies, and Alyssa looks like skinny. So I think she's gonna be like a skinny little girl, and my Alana is gonna be like a chunky monkey.
oh,
I think that it's crazy that they're closing the gap on their weight, even though Alyssa was, almost 2 pounds lighter than Alana was.
yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I
No
really
problem.
appreciate you listening.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this incredible mom story today. I really hope you enjoyed it and that it may have helped you in some way. Make sure you rate and leave a comment so I can be sure to bring you the content that you really want. Please follow the Incredible Moms podcast on Instagram, where you'll also be able to find many updates and episodes. I can't tell you how much I appreciate any support. Stay tuned for another Incredible Mom next week.